everybody. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all and have you here with us today. I would like just to point out that we are all witnessing here history. You are part of history in the make, because it's for the first time that the parliamentarians and the civil societies all come together in a blue zone. And that's the power of the UAE, where we include everyone and everyone is included. My name is Sarah Falaknaz. I'm the member of the Federal National Council in the UAE. I'm also I represent the Arab group in the IPU on Bureau of Young Parliamentarians. I'm so pleased to see in this room and under IPU's umbrella members of parliament, representatives of women and youth organizations and groups, representatives of government and others, all dedicated to climate action. I'm enthusiastic that this event opens up the parliamentary ecosystem to women and youth leaders and other pro-climate friends from around the world. I strongly believe in the power of women and young people to combat climate change and make sustainability more at reach for the good of all people today and for the future generations tomorrow. But I'm sure that collectively we can do better so that women and youth voices and contributions be much more impactful and in the lead. This is not possible with no change. We need all institutions to be more inclusive. We need to work more and better together and break the silos. This is what this meeting is all about. It is the first time that the IPU and the Inter-Parliamentary community in general are given a space in the blue zone of COP. And I would like to take this opportunity and thank both the Federal National Council and the Inter-Parliamentary Union for making this meeting happen in the blue zone. I salute this great step, as parliamentarians are key actors in the fight against climate change. And I hope that parliamentarians can from now on be firmly included in COP meetings and negotiations. With many thanks also to the UNFCCC for this meeting's opportunity. I'm pleased that this event will be highly interactive with time for participants from different groups to take the floor to exchange views, experiences, and call for action. Some housekeeping, please. When the floor is opened, please let me know if you would like to speak. However, I will ask you to respect a limit of 2 minutes for your interventions so that there are enough room for as many participants as possible to contribute. After the opening of question and answer, each session will be open to our contributions guided by some key questions that I will put to your consideration. So for now, let's start with Q&A with our distinguished panel. I am honored to introduce Her Excellency Madam Nelly Muti, member of the IPU Executive Committee and Speaker of the National Assembly of Zambia. I'm also honored to have His Excellency Dr. Ali Al-Naimi, who is the Vice President of IPU. However, he is here in his capacity as Chairperson of the IPU Gender Partnership Group and Member of Parliament from the Federal National Council of the UAE. I'm also honored to have His Excellency Mr. Dan Carden, President of the IPU Board of the Forum of Young Parliamentarians and Member of Parliament from the United Kingdom. Also, I'm honored here to have on my left Her Excellency Cynthia Lopez Castro, President of the IPU Bureau of Women Parliamentarians and MP from Mexico. I'm also honored to have also on my left Ms. Sophie Dawood, co-founder of Youth Negotiators Academy and CEO of Future Leaders Network. Let me take this opportunity to send our best to the President of the IPU, Madam Speaker Axon, who could not be with us today due to horrific flooding taking place in her country. Madam Muti, my first question goes to you. Can you tell us your vision for the role of parliaments to address climate change and the role of the IPU? Madam Muti, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Falcanas. Thank you very much for your warm, welcoming remarks and also inspiring remarks opening our discussion for today. It is indeed a privilege for me to head a parliament, especially at a time now when so much action is needed by parliaments. Climate change is the challenge of a generation. May I simply say that actually climate change may be a problem for all generations. It therefore demands urgent and collective action. Such action cannot be thought, prepared, decided, or implemented without the involvement of parliaments. As we are all feeling the climate change in our lives, we need to bridge these individual needs with the policies that prioritize mitigation, adaptation, sustainability, and resilience. No policy can be made without members of parliament. Why am I saying that? This is because members of parliament are representatives of the people. They speak on behalf of the people. Parliaments can be enacting laws that promote environmental protection and allocating resources to climate-friendly initiatives and green transitions. They are also overseeing governments. This role is essential for holding governments accountable to their own commitments, including those by the COP. As Speaker of the Parliament, I believe that Parliament should be a central institution at the forefront, nationally and also internationally, in processes addressing global challenges, including climate change. Parliaments must claim their rightful place within a multilateral system that so much needs an inclusive perspective in order to develop, drive, and reach plans of action with the real prospects for success. And this is where IPU comes in. IPU can mobilize, take advantage of its numbers. We have 108 members of member parliaments. We can mobilize and ensure that we take the parliamentary diplomatic corridors and utilize these numbers in order to explore sustainable solutions and often provide a way forward in cases where traditional diplomacy is at a stalemate. Our campaign, Parliament for the Planet, is building momentum. A number of parliaments have joined, from using solar panels to planting trees to even banning use of plastic in their parliaments. Collective parliament action is paramount, and combating climate change requires a united front. The IPU is here to provide that environment, enabling environment and conditions for us to be all successful as we combat and confront this challenge of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Muti, for that insightful views. My next question goes to His Excellency Dr. Ali Al-Naimi. I'm pleased and proud to invite you to share information of our distinguished guests about the UAE's innovative strategies to engage women and youth in this COP28 and how they foster more inclusive and stronger climate action. Dr. Ali, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's an honor for me to be here talking to you. I wish that one day when we have such session, such meetings, we will not talk about men and women. We will reach where we don't differentiate between men and women and their role. When it comes to climate change, we have to understand that this threat, when it comes, the damage doesn't choose men or women, but actually maybe in many communities, the damage is more toward the women and the children. The UAE, from the beginning, developed a strategy to empower women, to engage the youth, in all sectors. And when we started looking into organizing this COP28, you will see maybe many of you who are participating in the negotiation, you will see that the UAE side had put young boys and girls. I call them boys and girls because some of them are like not only my son, grandson. I am proud that the UAE were able to invest in these, empower them, engage them, give them the trust, and let them play their role, because when it comes to climate change, we are talking about the future, not only the current thing. And it's their future. And this is where, from the beginning, we saw the engagement of women and also the youth. One of the things that we did, and maybe many of you are aware of, that we invited about 100 youth from the Pacific Island, from the beginning, to engage, to make sure that their voice is heard. And it's very important that we look at this challenge as a challenge to all of us, not to a certain area or region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali, and we hope that we can duplicate this in the COPs that are to come. My next question is for the President of the Forum of Young Parliamentarians, my dear friend Dan. Why do you think youth leadership in the area of climate change is so important? What do young people bring that is different from other groups? Again, you have 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everybody to this meeting. It is a first here at COP, and I'm really delighted to be taking part. And can I thank Sarah, you, but also our hosts, the UAE, for putting this event together. Young people never cease to disappoint in terms of inspiring us to do change, to make more radical change. And we have a saying in the Young Parliamentarians group that no decision about us without us. And I think it's especially true when it comes to climate change. Young people have been at the forefront of taking action to fight on the issue of climate for generations. We've had movements like Fridays for Future involving millions of people. We've had school strikes that really brought this to the attention of politicians and has led to parliaments declaring for climate emergencies and changing policies. I want to give you one statistic that I always push when it comes to the issue of youth representation, because there's plenty of activists out there campaigning on these issues, but I honestly believe there is no reason why many people, many activists, should not be in their national parliaments making this change themselves. And only 2.8% of members of parliament worldwide are under the age of 30. And yet, over half the world's population is under the age of 30. So that is a massive gap in representation that the IPU, the young members of the IPU, are determined to challenge and change over the future. Because, let's face it, if we had more young people in our national parliaments, we'd be taking more action on the climate emergency.
Thank you very much, Dan. A big up to all young men and women fighting for climate. A similar question now for the President of the Forum of Women Parliamentarians. Why is women leadership on climate change so crucial? And what do women bring to the table that makes their empowerment so important? Cynthia, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, dear Sarah. First of all, I want to thank you for this welcome in a very important meeting in COP28 in your country, because it's important that all of us notice that it's the first time in all the COP, in the 28 COPs, that a meeting about youth and women. So congratulate you, congratulate your country, because we are making history. So congratulate you for your country. Also, I want to thank you, Dr. Ali. Thank you for your hospitality. And also Mira, a member of IPU, that she's very active all the time. Thank you so much. Well, I want to tell you that women leaders are essential drivers to ensure gender-responsible climate action. Our meaningful participation in climate processes is a precondition for success. So to answer these questions, we must understand that while climate change affects everyone, it is not everyone equally. It is well established that climate change has a greater impact on the world's most vulnerable people, like women. So women often face higher risk and greater burdens from the impacts of climate change in situations of poverty and due to existing roles, responsibility, and cultural norms. So solutions to climate change that not address these realities are not effective. Unfortunately, this is the decision-making model that we currently follow. So this poses a question of effectiveness of the policies which are decided upon on a model of exclusion. So I just want to tell you that we need more women leading this negotiation. It is more women in Parliament, more women as the head of this important topic. And we need all, and I congratulate all the women MPs that are here being part of this COP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Cynthia, and I would like to thank all the women who are engaged in environmental protection. Thank you. We are also honored to have with us Sophie, head of the Youth Negotiations Academy and Future Leaders Network. Sophie, my question is, how are youth negotiators influencing climate decisions, and what is needed to better back them up? Sophie, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to the IPU and the UAE for hosting this historic conversation. So, young people have historically been significantly underrepresented in climate decision-making, very similar to the points Dan mentioned about youth representation in national parliaments. At COP25, for example, just 25% of delegates were under the age of 35, and anecdotal evidence is that most of them were manning pavilions instead of negotiating, despite the fact that nearly 2/3 of the world's population are under the age of 35. I'm one of the 4 young co-founders of the Youth Negotiators Academy, whose goal is intergenerational justice. We support young people to become the decision makers making decisions about their future. And our first programme was the Climate Youth Negotiator Programme, which trains and supports young people to become climate change negotiators. We launched just 1 year ago in 2022, and this year we have 120 young negotiators here in the negotiations at COP28 from more than 50 countries, representing their countries and helping make decisions about their and our futures. We have so many examples of how these young negotiators are transforming the negotiations, because at the heart of the programme is not just capacity building, it is community building, and we build a shared sense of humanity that is really incredible amongst young people. And together, they are able to achieve consensus that many of their senior counterparts cannot, because they realise that it is not just a future, it is our future that is at stake. And we have so many examples of where they've been able to drive consensus when many others have not been able to. To better back up more young people, what we need is to destigmatise youth participation. Young people frequently get told that their opinions don't matter, or that they're not mature enough to engage in decisions about their future. That simply isn't true. Young people have a right and are excellent at making decisions about their future. We need to equip those young leaders with the skills and the networks they need to be really effective in negotiations, and that's what my programme does. And last but not least, we need funding. Some of the youngest countries in the world are also those who are the most climate vulnerable, and they often struggle to make it to COP28. We need to support those young negotiators to get into the room and have their seat at the table.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Despite just being 1 year, very impressive and inspiring numbers. Congratulations. Now, concluding questions for all the 4 of you. Well, 5. This meeting is about women and youth. But to zoom in on both at the same time, I'm speaking here about young women. I would like to ask you if you could name a young woman that really inspires you on climate action in your country, continent, or in the world. Also, any thoughts on what can parliamentarians do to amplify young women's voices and action pro-climate? So we'll start here with Madam Muti. Again, you have 2 minutes.
Very much, Sarah. It would not be an overstatement to declare it as a fact. Young women have become a symbol of the global climate movement. We all vividly recall the icon image of Greta Thunberg during her initial protests in front of the Swedish parliament in 2018, which soon evolved into a global movement of unparalleled scale and geographical reach. Her fearless advocacy for climate action has resonated with millions worldwide, providing the impact young people can have on shaping the discourse and driving meaningful change. There are so many unsung heroes all over the world. Some of them are not heard of. But if we do something and bring these women together, we do mentoring programs for them, build institutions for them so that they can also come out and be impactful in the way we fight climate change. In terms of Parliament, Parliament has got a bigger role in terms of what it can do by formulating legislation. That legislation will be able to protect and provide for the equal participation of women in decision-making processes, in parliamentary bodies, and also we provide a good environment where women can be able to work comfortably and also find a balance for their work-life environment. And also as we need to implement moreover, parliaments can champion legislation that addresses the unique challenges faced by young persons, such as access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. Parliaments can nurture political aspirations of young women by creating enabling environment for social and political activism. Lastly, like I said, we need to build up institutions that will provide young women, in particular women and girls from remote areas with different social and economic backgrounds, with different experiences. This involves breaking the stereotype, encouraging mentorship programs, and providing space for the meaningful participation of young women. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Moody. I can't agree more. The same question goes to you, Your Excellency, Dr. Ali.
Well, it's very hard to name one person because, you know, here in the UAE, you know, I see that there is so many young women who are engaged in being, you know, a champion, and taking a lead when it comes to the challenge of climate change. You might see some of them who are participating in the negotiation here, or you will see some of the volunteers that you will see them here, and even some of them are those who are classified as special needs girls. Also, we have many startups which is started by young women in the UAE to deal with this challenge. Also, we have many working in the educational system, creating awareness between the new generation related to this issue. Thank you.
We're for sure proud of them. The same question goes to you, Dan, and you have 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to just name one person because I guessed this question might come up. And I met online a young activist in the United Kingdom, and I want you all to look her up because I think she's fantastic. Her name is Scarlet Westbrook. She was the youngest person in the world to obtain a government and politics A-level, aged 13, which she taught herself. She co-organised Birmingham's first school strike for climate action. She's the youngest ever author of parliamentary policy in the United Kingdom, and probably the world, authoring the English Climate Emergency Education Act, which was presented to Parliament by Parliament's then youngest MP, Nadia Whittome. She's an award-winning journalist who writes articles on climate change's effect on young people. She's a member of campaign group Teach the Future, which seeks to teach students how to face the effects of climate change as well as begin to build the solutions. And finally, if that wasn't enough, she received an honorary doctorate of science from the University of London before she started her undergraduate degree. So I was blown away by her when I met her earlier this year, and she does not know I'm mentioning her, but look up Scarlet Westbrook.
Thank you very much, Dan. Cynthia, the same question goes to you.
Thank you. Well, of course, all of us, we were at the meeting where the young Mexican activist was there, Shille Bastida, an indigenous activist. But I think it's not only one. I think all of us, each of all of you, we are great activists, because if we do a little bit, we are really contributing for the world. So I want to name all of you that are great activists and all women that are here from different countries.
What about men?
Of course, men, but first women. Of course, men. I think all of us, we are activists just to be here, trying to learn, to contribute a little bit, and just tell that parliaments can also do more to ensure zero tolerance policies towards sexism, harassment, and violence, and to maintain strong structures and procedures that not only address cases and deliver justice. So we need the participation, of course, of men and women, and I think all of us, we are great activism just because we are here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Cynthia. And last but not least, the same question goes to you, Sophie.
Thank you. Unsurprisingly, I would like to mention my three other fellow co-founders, who are all young female women, female individuals, just like me. And what I'm so impressed and kind of amazed by is that all of us, the other three as well, we could have walked away from the crisis that we saw in front of us. We could have said, you know what, young people aren't represented, but so what? But every single person took steps to improve that, including, for example, my co-founder, Marie-Claire, who was a Swiss negotiator, a youth negotiator. She took steps not just to improve her own position, but to improve the position of young negotiators all over the world. And I think with that, I would like to echo Cynthia's words, that actually it's about finding the incredible, inspirational woman who is sat right beside you and who is doing amazing things to change the world. Finally, I'd like to say that more than 70% of our young negotiators last year were female and were young, which we're incredibly proud of. And one of the amazing things that we had as part of our programme was a spirit of compassion, empathy and kindness. And I believe that by parliaments and institutions fostering more of that spirit, we can truly change the world.
So can I have a round of applause for all of our here speakers? As with this, we conclude our questions and answers. But however, right now, we will move on to our second session, and please feel free to contribute. Our first discussion is on inclusive and powerful climate action. Diversity and inclusion is not only a question of right, but also of crafting better public policy. We need all hands on deck to address climate change. Yet, young people and women are vastly underrepresented in most parliaments. Here are a couple of videos which will tell us more. So this sets the tone. A big thank you to the IPU for being so strong on fighting for more women and youth in parliaments and politics. Let me now turn the mic over to you, beginning with the women and youth group leaders here with us. My question to you is, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when thinking about the role of MPs in climate change? And how do you think Parliament can better deliver pro-climate actions? Let me take 3 contributions, please, from women and youth groups representatives. You have 2 minutes each. So number 38, if you can. Sorry, this is only for youth groups. You're an MP, the question after. Perfect. So number 33. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Hello. Can you please can you hear me? Yeah, you can, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Salman Khan. I am an undergraduate medical intern based in India, and I'm a part of the organization called the International Federation of Medical Students Associations, also known as IFMSA. We are a cohort of 1.5 million medical students worldwide, and as we all know, we have discussed in the first ever health day that climate crisis is a health crisis, and health is the face of climate change. What we as a big group of 1.5 million medical students believe in is that we aim to be meaningfully engaged in the decision-making and the negotiation processes as the voice of the face of climate change. We, as in the young healthcare providers and young future healthcare providers, see ourselves in a position to walk hand in hand with all the other stakeholders present in this meeting so that we can effectively work on addressing the health impacts of climate change, which now is, as rightfully said in the previous discussions at the high-level ministerial segment as well, that health is the face of climate change. So we, as an organization of young healthcare professionals, want to give the face the voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, you should be part of the negotiations. The next, I'll give the floor to Flavia Burio from PMNCH, number 25. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. And first, from the Partnership for Maternal, Newborn and Child Health, our sincere appreciation for this historic meeting that is bringing parliamentarians and the IPU at the heart of the COP negotiation. Now, being a veteran of the COP participation, we like to suggest 3 things that members of parliament can do. Number 1, they can build on the campaigns that are happening that engage young people, like the campaign we have at the PMNCH that is called 1.8 billion young people below the age of 24 whose health and well-being is threatened, as a previous speaker has mentioned. Number 2, you can support the Young Negotiator Academy. I, for one, am a financial supporter of the academy that Sophie has mentioned. And if you had asked me, the people that inspire me, those 4 women, I've met them, and they are transformative. You can support them. You can create a cell within the parliament that supports young negotiators within each of the national parliament. And finally, Madam Speaker, there is, since 2015, the COP in Paris, there is a gender action plan. However, in the words of the former UNFCCC Executive Secretary 2 days ago, that action plan is neither implemented nor financed. As a Member of Parliament coming into this, your role for accountability, asking where is that plan and what can be done to accelerate its implementation is key. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. So if someone, or if this question got inspired, anyone? Yes, number 19, you can go ahead. You have 2 minutes, please.
Hello, my name is ABD Hamid from the Mediterranean Youth Foundation, MYF. And I think one of the major things that Parliament members can do is to field locally organized research groups from youth. I can't stress that enough. As a sustainability researcher within the postgraduate community, a lot of youth are working in research, in academia. They do a lot of field work, and they are concentrated in their institutions and universities locally. So they could be able to give empirical evidence of climate change and the impact on their local communities. And this is very important, so that such voices from the community could be voiced not only in parliaments for legislation, but also in events like the different iterations of COP. And we would like to see the parliament members focusing on a couple of things. There is a major financial and financing gap between the global north and the global south. So we'd like to have the parliament members advocate for bridging that gap. And also we would like to have more funding allocated to green entrepreneurs. And the problem with green entrepreneurs is that green entrepreneurs in the global north can have more access to financing. So we'd like the parliament members in the global north countries to give more support to their legislators and to their governments in the allocation of foreign aid towards youth entrepreneurs, especially in underdeveloped communities, and also fielding locally organized research groups, because we need to have the local community voice coming into the play. I myself did a field study research on a small village called El Chakhlouba in Egypt, and quite honestly, I'm really glad that their voice have been transported to COP28. So I'd like to have more of that, the research and entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let's move on to the next question for our women and youth representatives also. So the question is, what role do you see specifically for women and young MPs? And what do you think can be done to better amplify the voices of women and young people on climate change? Any contributions? Number 36. Go ahead.
How do I put this? Oh, thank you. I'm Shatti Mushere from the Parliament of Uganda, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I must mention that we have one woman MP per district in Uganda, so the government of Uganda is very interested in supporting women. I also want to say that, first of all, women must be empowered and feel that they can occupy this space. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleague, Honorable Jacqueline Amongi, who's here. She has encouraged me. I'm an MP, but I have not, this is my second COP. So the fact that she came up to me and said, Shatti, you just show up. You cannot be wrong. If you open your mouth and say something, you cannot be wrong. You're already committed to climate action. So first, as women, we must encourage each other. Then we must be capacitated to be able to explain, understand this jargon. It seems like we should all understand what resilience is, what adaptation, mitigation, but I can assure you, not all parliamentarians understand this. But yet we understand what our women go through, what our children go through, what our rural communities go through. And even people in Africa, don't quite understand climate change, but they know they have floods in their areas. They have different challenges, which actually are a result of climate change. But being able to give us capacity as MPs, then in turn we also go and also help our communities understand how we can work together to improve our climate. So community building, capacity building, I cannot overemphasize finance, and this is something, the young man, thank you for talking about that, but I just want to, again, say how grateful we are for this roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other contributions? Number 38.
Donc, excusez-moi. Je me présente, je suis Yahare Soumaré de la Mauritanie. Je suis activiste, j'ai travaillé pendant une vingtaine d'années dans la société civile et cette année, j'ai décidé de rentrer dans le Parlement. Je pense que se questionner sur le rôle des femmes dans les changements climatiques, c'est maintenant. Je pense que pendant des années, les gens ont tourné en rond. C'est maintenant qu'on a trouvé la solution. Parce que la solution est avec les femmes et les jeunes. Il faut le reconnaître. Les solutions féminines, quant au défi des changements climatiques, ça, ce n'est pas de l'histoire. C'est du vrai, c'est du concret. Parce que nous le vivons au concret. Nous le vivons au quotidien. Mais malheureusement, je viens de la Mauritanie comme de la plupart des pays. Les femmes sont écartées des gestions de l'environnement, comme des questions du foncier. Il y a des stéréotypes de genre, de normes sociales qu'il faudrait d'abord changer. Vous avez dit parlementaire femme. Faut-il se battre pour trouver déjà sa place au sein du Parlement? Ce n'est pas quelque chose d'acquis d'office. Dans tous les pays du monde, le défi est là. Le défi est d'abord d'arriver d'abord dans la chambre du Parlement en tant que femme. Il faut relever ce défi. Mais on ne se sous-estime pas. Le peu de femmes qui est là, plus des hommes qui sont là dans la masculinité positive, je pense qu'on peut y arriver à partir de cette COP. Il suffit d'investir dans la sensibilisation sur ces normes sociales. Il faut investir dans la formation. Il faut investir dans les inégalités juridiques qui sont dans nos pays. Il faut s'attaquer à ça. C'est ça la gangrène d'abord. Mais sinon, les solutions sont avec nous. Mais on ne nous questionne pas. Personne ne nous demande nos avis. Malheureusement, on est écarté. Et pourtant, on a les solutions. Merci.
Thank you very much. Number 24.
Hi, I'm Khawlam Sheikh, Dr. Khawlam Sheikh in Applied Math. And it's weird, like I'm here because people think that people from scientific community don't have to do with policies. But actually, I'm also admire working on policy-driven actions. And my questions and my interventions here are related to the both questions already asked. Being a young scientific researcher myself, I see that MPs should start adopting policies to include more women, scientific women, in the parliamentary work and include more academic people in policy-driven because they have the knowledge and they have the trustee that we need. Also, being a woman originally from the Middle East, but I'm living abroad, that brings challenge to engage in the policy-driven work abroad. So what I encourage here is to have these places and spaces to participate as diverse women who are expats or immigrants, either living abroad or born abroad, but coming from different ethnicities and different places around the world, and would like to engage in the climate action where they live or where they are based. So I think we should have suggestions and encourage this diversity inclusion of either academic, scientific women and people in general, men and women, and also the diversified community in order to lead to an inclusive community working on policy-driven. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, number 10, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a Member of Parliament from Zambia. I must say it is an honor for me to be here today. I'm happy to note that I was part of the 2.7 when I was elected 2 years ago. Just to take note, I think for me, for young parliamentarians and women, the first for me is number one, to develop technical capacity for them to be able to give oversight. I've always asked that what is Parliament giving oversight on if they don't have the technical capacity? And the first thing must to capacitate young parliamentarians and women on the technical aspects of climate change, because it's not a straightforward topic. It's, and this, the COP attendance is one such event, and we're happy that we've joined Madam Speaker here. The other issue is also to give an opportunity to women and young people to be part of these negotiations from an informed perspective. And it is my feeling that the COP or the subsequent COPs must have a pre-COP, COP, and post-COP, because after COP, usually we've not seen a post-COP conversation on how far are these commitments that global leaders have made. What is the post-COP framework or trajectory? So I think this could be an opportunity to rethink the approach in the climate conversation so that it could be more practical. Issues to do with capacity, I'll give you an example. My attendance here gives me an opportunity to think that as a Member of Parliament, we in Zambia, we have what we call the Constituency Development Fund. So I'm already thinking that I must undertake climate resilient projects in my constituency, because then that way we must begin having conversations in ending this situation where, when we have heavy rains, heavy winds, schools are having blown off roofs. So all this kind of thinking for a young Member of Parliament only comes when you begin to understand that there is need to mainstream this climate issue with all multi-sectoral approach, local government, and this way we'll be able to avert risks, and instead of really mitigation, and we would really get to adaptation. That's my submission. Thank you very much.
And now we move on to my dear friend Hannah. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad that I can speak after my sister from research. I'm now a member of the European Parliament, but I was a researcher previously myself. And my experience is that often those who suffer most from the consequences of climate change don't feel that they belong to these kind of discussions. And as a member of Parliament, I think we have two responsibilities, and that goes especially out to the young, to the marginalized, and to the women. First of all, if they speak to us, we should give them the feeling that we care and that they belong, because they do. And if they attack us, that we are too slow or we're not implementing things the right way or whatever, we should see them as allies, because they invest their free time and the little bit of resources they have in trying to make us better fight climate change and fight the climate crisis. So although it's sometimes perceived as criticism, I actually think they are our closest allies and we really need them. And the second aspect is, how do we move ahead? Because many have the fear that whatever measures we take in terms of changing your heating system, that's the discussion we're having in Germany, using different kinds of generators, that it disproportionately affects, again, the most marginalized, the women, the youth. And we really need to have them on board for acceptance, because that is how we can move globally. So let's all please see them as allies and make them feel that they belong to the decision-making tables.
Thank you very much, dearest Hannah, for your insightful views. We'll move on now to number 15. 14. I'm very sorry. Yes.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I am Carol Amang from the Asian Youth Council, the Director General, and I'm also from the Philippines. So in the Philippines, since 1975, we already elect our youth representative into government. This way, we can make sure that our voice, the voice of the youth, can be heard and can be put into policy already. So every community, every cities and provinces, we voted our youth representative with budget and independence in creating policies, projects, and programs into their own community. I think that is something that we, in our own countries, can be considered, so we can have the voice of the youth be heard in all of our community. Because I believe that we youth is not the future. We are already here now, and we are already taking the lead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We now move on to number 37. You have the floor.
Excellencies and colleagues, thank you so much for organizing this very important discussion. I am NOA Prakash, a gender and law specialist from the International Development Law Organization, and we specifically work towards reducing the justice gap for women and girls around the world. With respect to the discussion here, I'd like to talk about two issues. The first one is around the gender action plan that my colleague brought up. So those of you who have not been involved with consultations and negotiations, yesterday we did agree on consensus on a text, and unfortunately the language was watered down, especially with respect to women's participation in negotiations. So I think for the parliamentarians here, a way forward would be to capacitate your negotiators, to be able to provide support to them so that when they come for the next COP and the SBs and Bonn, this is something that we can be well prepared for, because even now at the COP discussions, women's participation is not where it should be. And then more specifically, with respect to women's participation and how we can improve them. So we have been working in many countries with women judges, women lawyers, and we found certain areas of work that we think do help. Number one being eliminating discriminatory laws. And by that, I do not just mean constitutional quotas at highest levels of parliament, but we need to look at all levels of government, especially, women's participation in customary and informal justice systems. In many of our countries, these are very important avenues through which key decisions around land rights, women's leadership is made, and I think we need investment in those areas. The other day, I was facilitating a session with ILO on women's participation, and one of the most important things that came up was childcare facilities and the support for women at all levels on that, but also for men, because we need to balance out childcare. It's not just the responsibility of women and the linkages with the care economy. The third area that we need to highlight is violence against women in public life. This is a very big issue. It's a big barrier. Sorry, I'll just finish. It's a big barrier for women leaders at all levels, and I think we need more investment and justice in this. Thank you.
True, women participation is not where we would like to, we hope, however, it's way better than the previous COPs, and hopefully we'll see more and more involvement of women in the future COPs. We now turn to number 40.
Thank you, muchas gracias. Mi nombre es Agustín Almodóvar, soy miembro del Parlamento Español y miembro del Comité Ejecutivo también de la Unión Interparlamentaria. Bien, creo que la juventud parlamentaria está cada vez más presente en todo el mundo. Creo que tiene el potencial de ser una fuerza impulsora para la acción climática, influyendo en decisiones políticas cruciales y liderando la lucha contra esta crisis. En buena medida, creo que estaremos todos de acuerdo en que todo gira en torno a la concienciación, a la sensibilización, que creo que es fundamental, y por suerte cada vez más en todo el mundo, especialmente los jóvenes, son más conscientes y están mucho más comprometidos. Por tanto, creo que nosotros, los jóvenes parlamentarios, tenemos la capacidad de conectar con esa juventud y, por supuesto, de movilizarla en torno a esa concienciación climática. que es crucial ante, bueno, pues tanto negacionismo que a veces nos encontramos en muchos lugares. Tenemos la capacidad y las herramientas para organizar campañas educativas, utilizar plataformas de redes sociales para difundir información y movilizar a la sociedad civil y, por supuesto, colaborando con organizaciones medioambientales y científicos expertos, los jóvenes parlamentarios pues podemos asegurarnos que se basan nuestras decisiones en evidencia científica sólida. A nivel internacional, jóvenes parlamentarios podemos fortalecer la cooperación global participando en conferencias internacionales como esta, que creo que es tremendamente importante la celebración de este tipo de foros por primera vez, compartiendo prácticas y presionando además por compromisos más ambiciosos a nuestros países. Por tanto, enhorabuena a los organizadores de este foro porque creo que es importantísimo el poder celebrarlos, el poder contribuir de forma activa en la formación de políticas globales efectivas y poner en valor el papel que debemos jugar para poder cambiar las cosas.
Thank you very much, sir. We now move to our last speaker in this session, number 34, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Ines. I'm with Magda. We represent the European Network Against Racism. Thank you so much for organizing this. My question comes from the fact that, as the other lady said earlier, it's important to have a conversation about climate justice when it comes to climate change. And representing minorities in Europe, climate justice means, first of all, that it's not people who are contributing the most to climate change. It's not the people who are contributing the most to climate change who suffer the most consequences from climate change. That's the first inequality. And the second one is that those who suffer the most from climate change don't have access to spaces of power, but also when they do, they are most of the time alone, and they're crushed by the system, crushed by the other people who are outnumbering them, which makes them difficult to, spread the message or have a real fight. I'm interested in knowing how you equip those young people to have an authentic voice, but also equip them with the tools, for example, the networking skills, the public speaking skills, how to negotiate, how to form alliances, like all those things that are not taught at school and that are, not thought, especially because we want to keep some people out of the conversation. So how do you dismantle that? Second question, if you have time, if you want to, for someone else. How do you make sure that the narrative that young people and women have something to bring to the table doesn't essentialize them, doesn't put us in a situation where if you're a young MEP or a woman MEP or MP, you are here because you're a woman or because you're a young person. How do we make sure to counter that narrative and make sure that we are heard and taken into consideration for our ideas and what we bring to the table? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your insightful views that you all shared. We'll now turn to our second discussion and dive into partnerships for success. Our spotlight is on building stronger alliances and bolstering joint efforts among stakeholders from parliaments, governments, civil societies, and others so that we work more closely together to promote climate action. Beginning again with a question, who here in this room is already engaged in partnerships with MPs or parliaments? Can you tell us if these have been effective, and if so, what the ingredients for success were? Do we have any contributions? 25. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, and apologies to come back in, but we at the Partnership for Maternal, Newborn and Child Health have 20 years experience of partnership with members of parliament and specifically with the Inter-Parliamentary Union, and the IPU Secretary General, Marty Chukungu, is on the board of our alliance. Now, ingredient for success, it's important that you enable the people that are partnering with you to be at the table and to have an opportunity to hear your discussion and to give contribution, because then there can be a meaningful and fruitful dialogue. It's also important that you listen and are ready to be provoked a little bit, as Ms. Hanna has alluded to. Sometimes the activists in our community, they are a bit impatient, especially the young people, because they do not see Parliament taking the actions that they would like to. So enabling that space and even tolerating a little bit some of the rough edges, I think is critical and is very, very important. And then finally, I think the aspects of building together resolution and commitments that we can collectively track. I think our experience, for example, with the Inter-Parliamentary Union in creating a resolution to address maternal, newborn and child health more than 10 years ago has gotten a lot of traction and also has been tracked within the instruments of the IPU. So creating common movements and common decisions and common resolution that we can collectively track, I think this is key for success. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak again. Promise I will not come again. Thank you.
Not at all. You have the floor. And thank you very much for sticking to the 2 minutes. You're so kind. Now we'll move on to number 44, member of Executive Committee of the IPU from Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Dear colleagues, I think we have reached a very important phase of our discussions because I am sure that Parliament alone cannot do or cannot foster these processes ahead. For climate action responses, we need cooperation, we need interaction, and we need to act and to foster the overall actions from all sides, be it Parliament, be it government, civil society, and other forms. I want to share the experience of my country. Azerbaijan has led the non-aligned movement from 2019, and the first step which we did, so our government actually came out with institutionalization of the movement, and we created the Youth Forum and Parliamentary Network. And now we are in the process of creating the Women Forum as well. We think that these organizations, sub-organizations are very crucial so that to find more and more platforms to discuss and to share experiences. So I want to say that climate action is the very process which requires 100% of participation of every member of the society. So before Mr. Ali from the United Arab Emirates, he mentioned that actually the climate change impacts all in the society in equal levels. So we agree with you, but we want to say that actually climate action, climate change impacts men, women, and youth in different ways. So we need to find these ways. We need to discuss how it impacts, and we need. It is imperative to capture the voices, priorities, and knowledge for effective climate change responses. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We now move to number 11, please. Yes, it's you.
Well, thank you so much. I come from the Zambian Parliament. I'm one of the youthful leaders. I think the question you've asked is very important on how we can create networks and with regard to championing climate action, particularly around women and the youths. I think just to give a background to what's obtaining in Zambia in response to the question. I think what is more important is to make parliaments, first of all, accessible to different stakeholders like the civil society organizations and also the various players in the climate change and the women and youth agenda. Because if a parliament is not accessible, then it becomes very difficult to create the necessary networks. I'm proud to mention that my speaker in the Parliament of Zambia, it has a strategy that has created parliament closer to the people. And I think that's the most starting point, because a parliament should be accessible by the civil society organizations. The parliament should be accessible by individuals that have got ideas that would propel the agenda of promoting climate action, especially women and youth. Parliaments should be innovative and identify things like local awards for the youths, the women who are championing climate action. And this would be the starting point to bring a parliament closer so that parliament becomes accessible. There's a feeling that a lot of common people that might have brilliant ideas, they can't access parliamentarians and they can't access parliament. So I think that was just a typical example I'm giving. But as I conclude, the next one is the need to partner with civil society organizations like it's being mentioned. Civil society organizations, different networks, they sit with a lot of scientific information which can be used in our debates, also to inform our decisions, and also to make parliamentarians, both women and youths, to be more scientific in the issues that we bring around climate action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move now to my fellow member of the Bureau of Young Parliamentarians, Her Excellency Roro Este from Indonesia, number 15.
Thank you very much. So firstly, I just wanted to congratulate the UAE for hosting this session in the Blue Zone. So what a momentum, and it's so great. I'm very grateful to be here with all of you coming from the CSOs and also from academias and activists, all of you here. So I wanted to kind of just stress on the point that young people are the generation of the future, and so it's our responsibility to ensure that our future environment is safe enough for us to live in, but also it's safe enough for our future generation to live in as well. So that's a really important point I wanted to stress on. And also, I strongly believe that effective communication and partnership is essential in ensuring that we do create this sustainable future. And not only between governments, but really just across sectors. So I mentioned earlier, parliament, with the government, with CSOs, with the academias, with young people, with all levels of society, to make sure that we do sit down. And this in itself is proof that we're able to convene in such a manner for us to share our thoughts. And the very spirit of gotong royong, this is a saying in Indonesia, collectively working together side by side and achieving a goal is very important. We, as parliamentarians, we need to ensure that the commitment of mobilizing $100,000 billion per year by 2020 through 2025 is realized. And we need to decrease greenhouse gas emissions from all sectors, whether it be from the energy industry and also forestry sectors alike. And every country has their own respective roles to play in ensuring that we do decrease these numbers. And something that I learned, unfortunately, is that, I'm sorry, I'm kind of running out of time, but I learned that climate change seems to be a problem that is only realized by the middle and upper income class. And I love the fact that some of us mentioned the fact that, you know, everybody needs to be educated with regards to this and how we can then ensure and work together in creating the future that we all need. So this kind of partnership is essential, and today sets that kind of example. So I do hope that we continue this in the future. Thank you.
We sure will, Your Excellency. And now we move on to number 41. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. And my name is Jacqueline Among from Uganda. And I also chair the Africa Parliamentarians Network on Climate Action. And we have talked about raising partnerships. I think when we talk about partnerships, people only look at funders and donors to support parliamentary engagements. But at our level as members of parliament, we have tried to network and partner amongst ourselves at country level, but also at the continental level, and through sharing experiences. And that's why we're able, for example, in Uganda, we had a partnership with the Parliament of Kenya, and we learned experiences from them, and we came up with an act, a bill, which was eventually assented to as an act of parliament on climate change. And the same has happened to Nigeria. So I think that partnerships can also be developed amongst ourselves as members of parliament, sharing information so that we are able to transform and move this climate discourse to another level in terms of building up legislations, but most importantly, engendering the legislation so that when whichever laws that we pass, we put in consideration the young people, in consideration the women, because they are the most affected when it comes to almost everything, including bringing food to the table. It's a woman who must go maybe cutting firewood so that she can bring food to the table. So you find that climate change affects women even more than the other genders, because if it means bringing water, a woman in Uganda, for example, Kenya, walks a long distance in order to bring water to her family to use. So climate change is partnerships is very important within ourselves, but also dealing with other stakeholders to strengthen our legislative agenda. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to our fellow MP from Bahrain, Dear Hala. The floor is yours. Number 43, please.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah, and I would also take this opportunity to thank UAE for the generous hospitality and for hosting such an important event in the blue zone of COP28. The thing is that it's generally known that women in decision-making positions do really make a difference. And I think climate change is not any different from these important decision-making positions. And if we look to some names where we have a female and a young parliamentarian or politician, for example, in Finland, Ms. Sanna Marin, she's 34 years old, and she has taken her country to very strict climate change policies, bringing down the carbon emission to, I think, by 2035, if I'm not mistaken. And also we have an example of New Zealand, where Jacinda Ardern in 2020 also she's taken the seat of a prime minister, and she also has very strong climate change policies, and they are strict and they are working on it. So having a female and a young female both together is a double advantage, I think, for us really in parliaments. The thing is that, as we all know, and as it's mentioned already here, that although climate change does affect 100% of the population, but there are still voices that need to be heard and really need to be in partnership with parliamentarians and politicians. Of course, research houses, NGOs, civil societies, everyone really should be heard. It's not only the role of politicians, parliamentarians, but it's the role of everyone in the society to come together to work on this if we really want to see the real change in the climate effects that we are all experiencing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dearest Hala. I now turn to Henk Rogers, who is the founder of Blue Planet Foundation and the Planet Alliance, a global movement to end use of fossil fuels and create 100% renewable energy. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. We are all here to stop climate change. Make no mistake about it. The one way that we can stop climate change is by stopping the production of CO2 in the world. The way we do this is by switching to renewables. I live in Hawaii and started an organization in Hawaii to end the use of carbon-based fuel in Hawaii. We were the first state to have a mandate of 100% renewable energy by 2045. We changed the business model of the utility so they make more money by switching to renewables. We are already at 36% renewable energy, and that's after consuming $2 billion a year on oil and $1 billion of coal. 12 other states have copied our legislation, and that's moving just fine. But U.S., even if we're 100% successful, that only represents 4.3% of the people in the world. So my next foray is to go and fix the rest of the world, formed a new organization, the Blue Planet Alliance. Our board will always be a majority of women because men got us into this, and I have no confidence that men will get us out. And so we're starting this work with island countries because the theory of change, if we get island countries to change, they're the ones who suffer the most from climate change, and they suffer the most from the highest price of energy. And so we have a program, the fellowship program. We bring people to Hawaii, and in Hawaii we show them how we did the transition, and we teach them how to work together. We bring one from the government, one from the utility, and one from the private sector, and we show them how we did it and send them back, and we help them do it in their home country. We will do this every 6 months until we have 100% renewable energy mandate in every country in the world, and we will solve climate change. People ask me if I have hope. I say, no, I do not have hope. I have determination, because we are going to fix climate change, and our generations in the future will remember us for doing this.
We now move to our fellow MP also on the Young Parliamentarians Bureau, His Excellency Lord Fakafanua. Number 16, please.
Is it on? Sorry. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge my fellow board members, and also Sophie from Youth Negotiators, and Hank Rogers, who I just ran here because we were both on another panel. But it's an honor to be a part of this forum here, and I want to congratulate the United Arab Emirates for actually convening us here, not on the sidelines outside some hotel or some convention center, but inside the Blue Zone, which has never happened before. So I just want to congratulate you on that. If we want to talk about partnerships, this is what partnerships look like. It means mainstreaming the voice of the youth and ensuring that their voice is being heard in the table. Like I heard someone say it, and I like saying this: if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. And unfortunately, we will be on the menu if we're not here. And that's why it's important to have this partnership. And I just want to thank the UAE for doing that, and for their leadership in convening us here at COP28. I just want to talk about partnerships and the strength of partnerships, because that's the whole point of my 2 minutes. Blue Planet Alliance, they have a pledge for countries to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2045. Tonga was privileged enough to be the first country to sign up to this Blue Planet Alliance in COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh. I implore other countries to join, because as Hank elaborated, the whole idea of this is to decarbonize our energy systems. That's the only way we're going to achieve this. That's the only way we're going to protect the future of our people and the future of us. Because if we don't do anything, we're going to have an unlivable climate. That's untenable. So we have to achieve the targets. The science is clear. The way to do it is to ensure that we have political will. And the way that I see political will, it is from the people, and we are the people, we are the youth, we are the majority of the planet. Make our voices heard, make it count at elections, ensure that your elected officials are accountable to you, and make good policies that are good for your health and for your environment.
Thank you very much, Lord. Beautifully said. Thank you very much, Lord. We now move to our fellow MP and youth from the Federal National Council, His Excellency Marwan Al-Meheri, number 22, please.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm very glad to catch up to you guys in this session after closing the parliamentary conference on the other side. I will carry on from where Lord have just ended. It's our time. We need to come up together and work together as youth. We have 10 more years of being youth, considered as part of youth. So let's use that 10 years very wisely and put our efforts together. It's our time. We can do it. If we can get our problems aside, we might disagree on the way we do it, but we keep the dialogue going. We find ways, we compromise, and we find ways, and we move forward. I don't want to take more time, but I think that if we have will, regardless whether parliamentary or political will, we can do it. And we will do it, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Marwan. We now move to number 42, please.
Thank you so much. First, I want to say that it brings me so much happiness to be surrounded with such great trailblazers. You all are leaders and you really inspire me a lot. As a matter of introduction, my name is Dana Darwish. I am one of the chapter leaders at Women in Renewable Energy. So that is an NGO, and it's a Canadian-based NGO. And we have chapters all over the world, and one of the chapters is in the UAE, and I'm one of the chapter leaders there, and we operate globally. So I want to keep this like sweet and short, because I reiterate and I reiterate again and emphasize that all your opinions are great and they're valid. But I feel like, and this is just me, and I want to highlight, because a couple of people said this as well, that as a matter of fact, time is running out, and it's time to not just kind of say what we want to happen, but to implement, right? This is the time to implement. We don't have enough time. So bringing youth to the roundtable is amazing, but it's also time for us to actually hear them, actively listen to them, take their, suggestions, put it on the ground, because collective decision-making is important. And because diverse representation as well brings in innovation and brings in great ideas. And that's it from my side. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, our last contribution, number 24, please.
Hi again. So I would like to stress, because if you see that the title is how we can make the difference in climate governance. And actually the difference starts when we start hearing each other, when we start first replying to the needs of some of the entities in our societies. So I would like to stress on the importance of first getting rid of the stereotypes that we from our inside believe in, and then we transmit to the community, starting within ourselves, reaching policies, and most important, as my fellow young ladies already mentioned, implementation when it comes to science, working with MPs and parliaments, and to marginalized and minor communities, to work hand in hand again and start hearing some of them who are affected the most. And partnership actually is when we start introducing policies for inclusion that preserves their place on the table, and thus helps answer the question of how can women and young MPs make the difference in climate governance. Thank you so much for giving me the space.
Thank you all for this excellent contribution, discussion. It gave me great pleasure and honor to moderate this special event. I wish to thank you all, the speakers, and that shared their perspective at this event, and all of you for having joined us. Can I have a round of applause for each one of you? I'm now pleased to pass the floor over to His Excellency Martin Chongong, the Secretary General of the IPU, for his concluding remarks. Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. What number am I here? Okay. 49. Yes, number 49. Thank you. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for stepping in to moderate this very historic session at COP28. I recognize the presence of many outstanding members of Parliament here, including from the IPU's governance structures. I see Dr. Ali Al-Noemi here. I see Nelly Muti, Speaker of Zambia, member of the Executive Committee, newly minted member of the IPU's Executive Committee, Dan Carden, President of Young Parliamentarians, and I did see Cynthia Castro Lopez, the ubiquitous Cynthia, all of us here. But as I speak here, I'm reminded of my experience a couple of weeks ago when I was in Reykjavik, invited to the Global Reykjavik Forum. I was, I think, one of about 6 male participants in a sea of some 500 amazing women leaders from across the world. I cannot admit that I was intimidated. I felt very much at home because I saw the power that we could muster from the determination among these very, very capable women. And when I look at the room here, I also see that you don't only have women leaders, you are also having young faces. And this is, I think, typical testimony to the intergenerational, intersectional dialogue that we at the Inter-Parliamentary Union want to promote. It is no longer a discussion of the elderly generation with the younger generation or men versus women. It is an inclusive discussion bringing to the table and not the menu, as the speaker from Tonga said, bringing everybody to the table to have a good discussion. I had to rush across from the green zone to the blue zone, where all day today we have been at the green zone for the parliamentary session, which in itself was a momentous occasion because it was the first time the IPO was organizing a parliamentary meeting in the green zone of COP, in the heart of COP. And now we are here having another meeting in the blue zone. So we are scaling up our involvement in COP28, and that is how it should be. We have people ignore the voice of parliaments, they ignore the voice of women or youth at their peril, and there's no way we can succeed if these key stakeholders are not on board. So I'm very glad that it has been possible for us to come together. I do know that productive discussions have taken place here, and that we are hoping that we have been able to ignite a new movement within COP28. I will never be thankful enough to our hosts, our gracious hosts, the Federal National Council of the United Arab Emirates. You have done a sterling piece of work bringing us together in the heart of COP. And as I have just said at the closing session of the parliamentary meeting, this is not the end, it is just the beginning. And we are here to stay. Parliaments are here to stay. And parliaments, I mean, the older generation, but increasingly the younger generation and women for that matter. So thank you all for coming here. And when I speak at events where women are present, I feel a bit of discomfort because I have the impression that people want me to justify why women should be at the table. And they don't ask me why men should be at the table during discussions. So for me, it is just a matter of common sense that we all come together. And thank you, Hank, for being an ally. Hank, you don't trust men to get the job done. No, you trust men to get the job done together with women and young people, I think. And so I am very pleased that we can see a movement here, a swell movement of youth activism, which I'm sure will yield tangible results. Listening to the conversations that I heard when I came in here, I see that there is a capital of determination and enthusiasm among our youth folk and our women folk to work together to make this world a better place through saving our planet. Planet A, because it can only be planet A, right? There's no planet B. So I think that we should continue to work to make sure that in every occasion we have women, men, young people, and not too young people coming together to forge an alliance in support of our planet. And there is data there that proves that when we are inclusive, we are diverse in our approach, when we forge partnerships, as I heard many of you say here, then the outcome can only be better, can only be more effective. And that is what we want to see here. The voices of young people, they're young and energetic, and the voices naturally resonate well, and they cannot be ignored in any way. So we would like for us then to capture this potential that we have here within COP28, but for future COPs. I think this should be an event that will happen from now on at each COP, where we muster parliamentary contributions, but also contributions of the particular constituencies within the IPU. And I think that this is something that cements the role of parliaments. We have heard a lot about the critical role of parliaments. We have heard that they are catalytic in a number of ways, but somehow this is anecdotal. This time we're sitting here and we're discussing the ideas and approaches, proposals coming out to prove that parliaments, when they have the political will, can move the needle. And we want this to happen in the context of the global effort to push back on climate change. And I am glad that we are doing this and not just preaching among the converted, sitting here and patting ourselves on the back and saying how great we are, what we can do, but we are doing this in partnership with governmental representatives. We are doing this in partnership. I see academic community being represented here by Amanda Ellis, our very good friend. Amanda, thank you very much. Hank brings in the civil society activist approach to it, and together I think that we can create a mixture that can cure the disease of climate change. And that is what I think I take away from such discussions here in the historic precincts of the Blue Zone. So let me conclude this and say that there is a spirit that has been created. Now, that spirit existed, but it was somewhere in a remote location. Now it is in the heart of COP, and we have to maintain that spirit. We have to keep it alive, take it with us. Let's not lock up our spirit in a drawer or closet. Let's go, roll out that spirit in our different parliaments, in the different constituencies where we are called upon to contribute our quota to the global campaign against climate change. So we look forward to working with you. As we always say, the IPU is open. We'll continue to provide the platform for exchanges between parliamentarians and other stakeholders, so that together we can make this world a better place. And it is in this way that you can recruit more allies to our global campaign. So thank you very much for being here. It's very late in the day. Sarah, please take our best regards and thanks to the Speaker of the Federal National Council and your other colleagues. We are very, very grateful indeed for this opportunity. Thank you all for being here with us.
channel. This is the